Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Suhaib from MS Lectures, and today I will be demonstrating you about the vertebral column. Now I would like to start to describe each vertebra from the above towards the bottom. Now, starting with, we will first of all pick, this is the cervical vertebra. If my friends know, this is actually body, which is present anterior to the, present on the anterior aspect of the body. And then this is the vertebral foramen, in which actually spinal cord passes. And right at the junction between the pedicel and lamina, transverse process arises. And then going further posterior, this is the spinous process. Actually, transverse process and spinous process, actually these act as like a lever, and on these processes, different ligaments and muscle attachments occur. So that is all about the characteristic of the cervical vertebra. Now, I would like to describe you about the thoracic vertebra. We can see that we have seen that in cervical vertebra, the body was round shaped. But in this case, the body of the thoracic vertebra, it is the heart shaped. And then the same vertebra followed by the same vertebral foramen. And also, it's actually different feature which we observe in the thoracic vertebra, that its spinous process is not actually leaning straight. It actually bends, and it is bending inferiorly. We can see that the spinous process is bending inferiorly. So this is the distinguishing feature of the thoracic vertebra. And there is one more distinguishing feature of the thoracic vertebra, that it possesses the articular facet on the transverse process for the articulation of ribs on it. So this is the all about the thoracic vertebra. Now talking about the lumbar vertebra. Actually, lumbar vertebra has much larger body because it has to bear a large amount of weight, which is leaning from above to the bottom. And then further it has the same spinous process and transverse process. So that is all about our lumbar vertebra. Now going further down, we can see that this is our sacrum bone. Sacrum bone is formed by the fusion of 5 vertebrae. And if we start from the above, it actually consists of the region known as the propontory. Now the question arises that how propontory is formed. Actually, in the anterior aspect, the anterior portion actually bulges forward, and in this way the propontory region is formed. So that's all about the propontory. Furthermore, if we talk about, there is another region in it, which is known as the sacroiliac joint. Actually, this sacrum bone laterally articulates with the 2 iliac bones. So this is how the sacroiliac joint is formed. Further, if we talk about further anatomically, we see sacrum bone. There is sacral canal in which cauda equina is present, through which spinal nerves are actually passed through, which is the extension of the spinal cord. And there is also another region present on the sacrum. That is known as the sacral hiatus. Now, what is sacral hiatus? Sacral hiatus is actually formed when the 5th sacral vertebra actually fail to fuse in the midline. So that's why there is a structure which is known as the sacral hiatus that is actually formed. So that's all about the sacrum bone. Now going further beneath it, the final vertebra, which is known as the Cosex, it actually is formed by the fusion of 4 bones. But the bone that is above it, it has a triangular shape, and that actually articulates the base of the below sacral vertebra. And then inferiorly, the first Cosex vertebra further articulates with the 3 fused Cosex vertebrae. And I would like to add one more thing in it, that of the sacrum vertebra, that if you talk about above, there is lateralization in this case on the above aspect of the sacrum. What happens that the lumbar articulates with the sacrum, and it actually causes fusion. So that is known as the lumbralization of the first sacral bone. And there is a vertebral arch which actually contains the spinal cord in it. So these are basically the two primary functions of the vertebral column. So further, now we are going to discuss that how many vertebrae are there and further the anatomical features. Actually, our body consists of the 36 vertebrae. We have 7 cervical, then we have 5 thoracic, then 5 lumbar, 5 sacrum, and then 5 Cosex bone. And there are actually two types of the vertebrae, typical and atypical, and both of these vertebrae have their distinguishing characteristics. First of all, talking about the typical vertebra. Typical vertebra actually consists of the two structures. Number one, body, and the second, it is the vertebral arch. If we talk about its body actually lies at the anterior side of the body. And further, if we go posteriorly, there is a prominence which is known as the pedicel. And if we go lateral to the pedicel, from lateral to the junction between the pedicel and the lamina, transverse process arises. And also, there is a vertebral foramen through which spinal cord passes through, from the above to the lower limb of our body. So now I will be talking about the articular surface which are present on the transverse process. There are actually 4 articular processes, 2 on the superior aspect of the vertebra and 2 on the inferior aspect of the vertebra. And we can say that one vertebra articulates above with the 2 superior articular facet and inferiorly with the vertebra which is leaning. And if we talk about the last sacrum bone, actually the last sacral bone fuses with the Cosex, and this is known as sacralization of the last sacral bone into the Cosex. So that is our basic lecture on our vertebral column, and I have tried my best to explain you all the anatomical features of the vertebral column, and hope you have understand it. And don't forget subscribing MS lectures. Thank you.